Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. I'm Ansony Sieh hosting. Of course, this is the hour of politics. Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Today is a special edition of the hour of politics. This is the one that I actually like. And so when I'm ready for this one, you see me smiling because I'm trying to give to you nothing but my best. Even though my best may not come out as much as I would like, but that is the business. Welcome, hit the share button, share in any chat room you are a member of. The name is Benedict Cummings. According to him, he's on trial. Reasons he has explained. He gave a speech to do that. My job today on the hour of politics here at Focus on Liberia is to do an analysis of the speech that Mr. Cummings gave. A speech by Mr. Cummings. Well, before we get started, let us roll in few minutes of Mr. Cummings' delivery of the speech, and then we will go into the analysis right away. So stay with us.
My fellow Liberians, by now, I'm sure that many of you have heard that Senator Daniel Natin, Attorney Aloysius Stowe, and I, Chairman, Secretary General, and Standard Bearer of the Alternative National Congress, the ANC, have been threatened with arrest and are currently on trial before the Monrovia Magisterial Court at the Temple of Justice. We have been ridiculously charged with forgery and criminal conspiracy. The accusations underlying these charges are totally false and completely baseless. Our accusers, Mr. Benedict and his All-Liberian Party, the ALP, and the government of Liberia, know these charges are baseless and false. We also know that Mr. Ure and the government of Liberia are not alone in this conspiracy to lie and tarnish our heart and reputation and integrity. Sadly, to break up the CPP, Mr. Ure and the government are being cheered on by other leaders of the CPP. These leaders are afraid that we will defeat them in a CPP Democratic primary, the process we agreed to use to choose the standard bearer of the CPP.
All right, folks, you heard him loud, and maybe I should say louder and clearer there. Mr. Benedict Cummings, political leader of the Alternative National Congress, the ANC, there speaking after he was sued by, according to him, the ALP and Mr. Benedict Ure on allegations of forgery and criminal conspiracy. Welcome to Focus on Liberia as we go into our analysis here. So talking about this analysis, let us do this for you. What is the overview of the speech by Mr. Cummings? Well, it was a very short speech, which in my opinion was good in terms of the length of it. It was not too long. And when he delivered a speech, anybody who has seen the video, you will notice that it was about 25 to 28 minutes about that. The content was not embellished with unnecessary words. That was a good thing. Now let's talk about the delivery of the speech. The delivery was good, but not powerful. And it was also not moving as it was intended and as it should have been. It is obvious, given the nature of this particular case. It is a political case, according to Mr. Cummings. According to him, these are trumped-up charges that are false and baseless. So he was coming to give a speech that will be powerful and that will be moving enough to demonstrate how trumped up, how baseless, and how false these charges, according to him, actually are. But I'm saying to you, yes, the delivery was okay, but the speech was not powerful as was intended and was not moving. Talking about moving, talking about powerful, we know Liberia is polarized, politically speaking. So his party, his officials, those who support Mr. Cummings will say that was a powerful and moving speech. They can say that, to make themselves feel good. That is okay. But that would be dishonesty on their part because they know that this speech was not the powerful speech it was intended to be, and neither was it moving as it was intended to be. So that is the overview of the speech. Now let's talk about the goal of the speech. What was this speech intended to accomplish? What was it set to accomplish? Well, the goal of the speech was to make or pin this case as a political witch hunt by Mr. Benedict, the ALP, and I may add something Mr. Cummings failed to add, and by Mr. Joseph Yumabwaka. He failed to do that. But again, what I was trying to tell you was that Mr. Cummings was trying to make the goal of this speech to be a political witch hunt. And that he also wanted to make Mr. Bwaka and Mr. Ure to be the problem of the CPP. And talking about the witch hunt, something which is that they have trumped us these 4 charges against me. Did Mr. Cummings really provide the narrative? Did he actually succeed in painting that picture that these charges were actually trumped up and that this was actually a political witch hunt? That will form some of the basis of my presentation today. So earlier I was trying to tell you the goal of the speech was also to make Mr. Ure and Mr. Bwaka as the problem of the CPP. And the question is, did Mr. Cummings accomplish that? I want to say to you, Mr. Cummings did not accomplish that in whole. He accomplished that in part because he mentioned Ure, meaning that Ure was the problem. But he did not mention Mr. Bwaka. What he did in the entire speech was to not mention Mr. Bwaka by name at all. Instead, he went on to say that, and some members of the opposition. Who are some of the members of the opposition he's talking about? Mr. Cummings failed to name those people. And in my opinion, that was unfortunate. Now, the goal of the speech also was to make government of Liberia the suspect instead of his rival for the CPP standard bearership. Now, if you look at this whole case against Mr. Cummings, you will realize that Mr. Cummings and Mr. Bwaka are the only two candidates in the CPP who want to represent the CPP, who want to be the flag bearer of the CPP. So it is obvious that Mr. Cummings' opponent in this whole case, in this whole competition, is Mr. Bwaka. So for Mr. Cummings, who is calling some members of the opposition community as cowards, to not have mustered the courage to call Mr. Bwaka out for actually his actions, and his actions was another, complete letdown, if I can put it that way, on the part of Mr. Cummings. Mr. Cummings cannot tell me he does not know that he's up against Bwaka. Ure is not running for anything. Is Mr. Ure running for anything here? And how could Mr. Cummings not know that everything that Ure does, that Ure is all about, is to make Mr. Bwaka the standard bearer of the CPP and to go on to become president of Liberia? That is the goal of Mr. Benedict Ure. That is the goal of the ALP. And that is the goal of all the members and supporters, surrogates, propagandists of the ALP. Mr. Cummings knows that. So if anybody is the one to be accused, is the one to address, if there is anyone who is responsible and who is the prime suspect of this whole case against Mr. Cummings, because he said there's a case against him, and definitely there is a case, he's been sued, that person is Joseph Yuma Bwaka. Ure is fighting a proxy war for Mr. Bwaka. Ure does what he does to benefit Bwaka. Cummings knows that for a fact. Cummings is saying others are cowards, and yet he will not mention his opponent, the one for whom Ure fight, the one for whom everybody who are on Ure's side, are also fighting, who is Joseph Yuma Bwaka. And I'm like, what is Mr. Cummings up to here? What Mr. Cummings has done is to go after the low-hanging fruit, which is the government of Liberia. Anybody can accuse the government of Liberia. The government of Liberia, is like the boogeyman here. I mean, students are accusing the government of Liberia, rightfully so, trade unionists, opposition, talk show hosts, just about anybody, citizens alike, everybody accusing the government. So the government is the low-hanging fruit here. I am not sure how Mr. Cummings has a case against the government of Liberia here, but that is the calculation he has decided to make, and he chose to go after the low-hanging fruit instead of the opponent, who is to benefit from all of the political games that have been played here in the CPP against him, or arguably so. So now, let us talk about the speech, the language. Were there some beautiful language? Were there some beautiful lines? Are there some things in the speech that we can look at to say, well, there was a good speech. He has some strong lines. He has some beautiful lines. He has some good lines that people can quote, that can be memorable. Can we find any of those? Yes, I will say to you, there are a few lines in the speech that we can look at and say, well, yeah, these are good lines, but as good as they may sound, did Mr. Cummings succeed in connecting those lines to the Liberian people? That is another thing that we need to really look at. So let's look at some good lines in the speech. For example, Mr. Cummings said in his speech, I and Senator Nathan and Attorney Toh are on the docket at the magisterial court. He went on to say, but make no mistake, every man, woman, and child of Liberia is on trial. He continues, justice within our beautiful borders is on trial. He went on, the democracy for which our grandparents, parents, brothers, sisters, and cousins bled and died for voluntarily and involuntarily is also on trial. He continues, our right to choose a leader and a real change in the direction of our country is on trial. This is our chance to decide the future of our country, the chance to redefine ourselves, the chance for a better Liberia. In my opinion, those were good lines. What Mr. Cummings was trying to do with those lines was to call the Liberian people to action. That is what he was trying to do. That though you see me in court, you see my Secretary General in court, you see my party chairman in court, but what they are doing, he's talking about his accusers here, they're not doing it to me. They are doing it to you. They are doing it to what? I mean, they are doing it to everything that Liberia stands for. They are doing it to destroy everything that the nation has built, especially when he said our brothers and sisters, our grandparents, our parents, everything they've done, that is what they are destroying. He was trying to connect what he's facing today as a symbol that is being destroyed. He is using his case as an example of how his accusers, some political actors in our country, have succeeded and have been attempting to destroy the fabric of our democracy. Because he went on to talk about the way we choose our leaders. He's trying to say that these leaders are trying to decide who becomes president of Liberia, and not the people of Liberia deciding who becomes president. On the flip side, Mr. Cummings was trying to say, I am the best person here. I am the better person here. I am the real change. They are the bad guys, and the bad guys are against me, and they are against my team. And because we are the good side of Liberia, if we, the good side, don't come together to stand up against these bad guys, they are going to succeed. Our country will not experience the change that our country desperately deserves and needs. That is the case Mr. Cummings was making. Now comes the big question. Did Mr. Cummings achieve that? My answer is a solid no. A solid no. Inasmuch as I agree those were beautiful lines, Mr. Cummings did not succeed in winning the hearts and minds of the people of Liberia with this speech. Then your next question will be, why? Because Mr. Cummings has gotten himself into this situation. Mr. Cummings and the ANC have been won by their own supporters, by their own partisans. They have pleaded with them. Liberians have pleaded with them not to join this CPP. Because if you look at the composition of the CPP, when you look at the Unity Party, when you look at Benedict, these two sides of the CPP, the Liberian people don't like them at all. The Unity Party or history is crowned by corruption at the highest level. The Unity Party left Liberians in poverty and misery economically. That is the history of the Unity Party. The Unity Party squandered so many opportunities in the words of Mr. Bwaka. In the words of Mr. Bwaka, the Unity Party, instead of implementing, were doing PowerPoint presentation. Liberians remember the destruction of Nokar. So many things Liberians remember about this Unity Party. And so that Unity Party was rejected by the Liberian people. This is the Unity Party Mr. Cummings went in bear with politically. And also Benedict Ure. Benedict Ure and Charles Taylor brought a company called Lone Star that robbed our people economically, that stole from our people in broad day. Cummings, who claimed to be Mr. Clean Hands and the alternative and a man of change, refused to leave this so-called political union, despite pleas from even his own son, Tai One Way, and others. He will not listen to any voice of reasoning and wisdom. He knew what his now accusers were capable and are capable of doing. He went there, he stayed there anyway. To be crying on the knee of Benedict Ure today is like making the case that, oh, I didn't know who he actually was. Mr. Cummings knew all along. Mr. Aloshoto knew all along. The chairman Nathan knew all along. Every member of the ANC knew all along. And yet they chose to do business with a Ure. And yet they chose to do business with a Bwaka. And so today, to have come to the Liberian people to complain about the very individuals Liberian people have warned you to not do business with, to come and complain to them about something that they have told you and you have turned deaf ears to, it is not only unfortunate, it is not only foolish, it is completely ludicrous. You were told not to do business with these people. You refused. You were told to leave. You refused. You saw every good in them. You have even purported that you could change them. That is what the ANC said. We will force them to change. You can change a Ure? A sophisticated political game player for nothing else but his own political benefits and aggrandizement. You can change this guy. This guy is entrenched with the practice of this kind of politics. Charles Taylor did not change him. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf did not change him. No one ever changed Ure or will. And for this ANC and for Mr. Cummings to have this imaginary illusion, imaginary belief and illusion that they will have changed, these players who have been the architect of the corrupt system, the system that benefits them only and their children, the only system they know, to say that you will come and change them by doing business with them, I will use a very strong word, is completely foolish. And so to come and lecture the Liberian people in a speech that these people are trying to destroy everything that we have built. And I'm just an example of how they have destroyed everything, how they have always been a hindrance to change, to development, to progress. It does not sell. No, Mr. Cummings, you are speaking to the wrong people. So, Mr. Cummings did not gain any sympathy. If he did, maybe it's just the one he's had with his party. And those that support him blindly, who will not challenge him, those are the people maybe he has succeeded in maintaining. In terms of solidarity, are Liberians in solidarity with him? Yeah, of course not. Liberians are not in solidarity with you in no shape and form here. In talking about the case, Mr. Cummings knows that this is Walker versus Cummings. All that's been done here is for the benefit of Walker. This is Walker as his best, hauling his hands and using Uris as his hands. For him to have taken this fight, does he not know that this is a fight? Does he not know that? Instead of him to have taken the fight to Mr. Walker for who Walker is and how Walker has been playing through Uris, he is going after Uris and the government of Liberia. And here is the thing. Since the goal of this speech was to make this case to be a political witch hunt, for why you think it actually is, to have just said that this was baseless, trumped-up charges, and you did not narrate the circumstances or the plot as you claim it actually is, was a huge missed opportunity by Mr. Cummings. Just saying that these are trumped-up charges is not enough. How are these charges trumped up? How are these charges baseless? How are these charges false? And he even said that the government of Liberia and the ALP and Benedict Uris know that these charges are false. I heard someone saying, well, Mr. Cummings cannot go into the nitty-gritty of the case because the case is in court. This is a political case, right? According to him. He could have built a political case, the political plot that he claims that is about here. How could he have done it? This is why he failed to do. And this is why he did not win the Liberian people on his side. Number one, there was this allegation. First, there was this assumption that Mr. Cummings will go on a Bwaka. And there will be a Kumanya movement for the CPP. That was the assumption. But Cummings says, no, the framework said we have to compete. And you have to compete. So that side, the Bwaka side, and the Uris side, and the Nyombli and Dillon side, they were disappointed. What? Why the guy doesn't want to go as vice president to Bwaka? So that was that. There where the frustration started. He could have mentioned that so succinctly, but he did not do so. Now, when they could not get that to happen, the next thing was that, well, since he's talking about primary, saying he wants to be president, and they have accused him of being desperate, what do? We are not even the primary now he wants. What we're going to do is there'll be block voting. The block voting thing was defeated. You see the case that he could have built, he did not do that. Now, when the block voting thing was, defeated in the court of public opinion, then there was this allegation that Uris heard or was being tipped by somebody that the document was forged. And so the issue of fingering came in and Mr. Cummings was accused. And then there was an investigation. Nyombli being on the side of Bwaka, she executed the charge for Bwaka and found Cummings liable and guilty of the alteration, right? They are a game here. They are playing here. And Cummings is just walking around the room not knowing what these guys are up to. So they found him guilty. And when they found him guilty, their decision was that they will expel him from the CPP. And then they got to know they cannot expel him from the CPP. I am telling you, this is the political case Cummings supposed to build. This is the narrative he should have presented. This is the picture he should have painted to show and demonstrate that this is a political witch hunt. He did not do that, and I'm doing that for him just as a way of analyzing it. So they didn't succeed with that. He has now been expelled from the CPP. And when they got to know that they cannot expel him from the CPP, what was the next move? But then we're going to leave. Then we're going to leave. So you saw that the propagandists on the side of Bouaka, who are for Bouaka, the ALP, they started thinking about their exit. We're going to get out. We're going to go solo. So blood voting didn't work, so now we're going to leave because Bouaka got to be at all costs. And the other thing is, Cummings should have mentioned, is they have accused me of using money, using cash violence. That is another thing they accuse him. He could have also used it and also go on to deny it, because he continued to deny it, just to paint the picture that this is a political plot. This is a witch hunt. Mr. Cummings failed to provide this succinct narrative in his speech. And if he has done that, if he has painted this graphical picture in the minds of the Liberian people, he will have won minds and hearts. But he did not do that. And so as I listened religiously to the speech, and as I read it 2 times, I did not see that. How could you have called it a witch hunt and you did not paint that picture? The picture was right there. The circumstances are right there. The events are right there. Who are the guys writing this speech for Mr. Cummings? Are they political minded? Do they have political eyes? Do they follow? Do they have retentive memory of the events that have been unfolding in the CPP? Why they fail to paint this picture? So now that the expulsion they uttered for did not succeed, and now that they have resorted to leaving, now we have to go to court. And now they have gone to court. I am not saying I am in 100% agreement with this narrative. I am saying, in as much as Mr. Cummings is saying this is a political witch hunt, he needed to paint that picture. He needed to build that narrative, to show it to the Liberian people, chronologically, step by step, event by event, action by action, that he has failed to do. And that is why this narrative, this speech, did not win the minds of the Liberian people. Instead of talking about, first they asked me to apologize. Instead of it talking about, they talk about black voting, that I ought to document, that they will suspend me. And he should have also said that Benedict is leaving. And he should have also said, in all of these things, Mr. Bouaka would not say anything substantive. And another missed opportunity, Mr. Cummings, this one is big. But let me conclude on the previous point. Instead of providing these narratives, he just came to say the government of Liberia is conniving with Ure and some members of the opposition and bringing the Trump or charges against me, using the government of Liberia as a low-hanging fruit. My question to Mr. Cummings is this the government of Liberia that asked you to apologize for alteration? Is this the government of Liberia that brought black voting in the CPP as a clever way to not make you succeed, because they fear that if you go to a primary, the other accusation that you will use your money to win? Is that the government of Liberia that have been saying those things? No, that's not the government of Liberia. Is it the government of Liberia that sued you in the first place? No, it is not the government of Liberia. It is the Bouaka wing of the CPP that sued you. So instead of taking a fight to Bouaka, you chose the government of Liberia. And who is Benedict Ure? This man has never won 1% of the Liberian people's vote. Never. He's an insignificant political player, but he happened to be a sophisticated, dubious political actor for his own benefit. That's who he actually is. So that man should have been and you should have taken the fight to your opponent. So that was a huge missed opportunity. Another missed opportunity on the part of Mr. Cummings is that Mr. Bwaka, who is his opponent, he needed to pin that picture. So Cummings was chairman at some point of the CPP. When he was chairman, arguably, the CPP had a huge success. He took the CPP to the primaries in 2020. And what happened? The CPP won big time. The CPP won a lot of seats. During his time, the CPP was all in tight. But when Nyomble took over, the CPP went into chaos. And then when Bwaka got there, despite Bwaka making a vow that the CPP holding would be the only option and that he would institutionalize the CPP, Mr. Bwaka said, I am a man who has a track record for resolving issues and problems. Mr. Bwaka, under his watch, the CPP is falling into pieces. Mr. Cummings could have painted that picture. He should have drawn that contrast between his ability or the leadership he provided or his chairmanship when he was the leader of the CPP. How was the CPP compared to Nyomble? And even compare to, say, Bwaka, and even compared to the very Ure. When Ure was chairman of the CPP, when the framework came out, the framework was condemned by the Liberian people. That was Ure. When Ure was chairman, when the CPP went to primary, what happened? He chose his daughter. And even talking about that particular primary, there was so much chaos. You remember the primary about Colina Kratuba? There was violence. And the one in the Lokintown area, District 15, with his daughter, another violence. He did not paint that picture. He wanted to show himself that he's a better leader, but he could not demonstrate it. All he did was to use government of Liberia as the low-hanging fruit and not take the fight to Bwaka, because all this is about Bwaka becoming the standard bearer of the CPP. All this is about him to becoming the standard bearer of the CPP. So this is a battle between him and Joseph Yaman Bwaka. He did not muster the courage to call Bwaka by name. He called the government of Liberia. He called Ure and the ALP. He did not mention Bwaka. Is Mr. Cummings actually ready for a primary with Bwaka? Does Mr. Cummings now know that he's in a fight with Joseph Yaman Bwaka? Does he not know? So how is the government of Liberia going to benefit anyway from this case? That is another thing that he said, that the government of Liberia is going to benefit from this case, that he is a better candidate, and so the government of Liberia wants to go against Bwaka and not him, because with him, the CPP going to win, and with Bwaka, the government is going to win. How is that true? How can Mr. Cummings be right with this particular statement that he made? So, folks, the speech was not strategic in purpose. The strategy to have gone after the government was just, like not knowing what to do. Another missed opportunity Mr. Cummings had was that there is something we call the comeback of the underdog scenario. He failed to do that. It's obvious Mr. Cummings is the underdog here in this particular competition that is upcoming. He's the underdog. If you look at previous election results, Mr. Cummings was at 112,000 votes. Mr. Bwaka was around 400,000, and Mr. Weah was around 500,000. Now, these three people He got far less compared to Bwaka and Weah. So he is the underdog here. So he should have taken the fight to Bwaka and Weah as a candidate to be as candidates to be in the election. And that he is coming back. He did not make use of that underdog scenario. That these people don't want to see me to serve our country. And did not go as far as providing the reason for that. Mr. Cummings did not do that. All Mr. Cummings did in his speech was to complain about how Benedict Ure and the government of Liberia, are against him, and he would not measure the Unity Party and Mr. Bwaka, who is actually his opponents as we speak. He went on to say, our accusers, Mr. Ure and his all-Liberian party and the government of Liberia, knows these charges are baseless and false. We also know that Mr. Ure and the government of Liberia are not alone in this conspiracy to lie and tarnish my high-end reputation and integrity. So he said the government of Liberia and Benedict Ure are not alone. But he would not call the name of the other. And that other is Mr. Bwaka. Where is the courage? Where is the courage? He went on to say, Sieh, to break up the CPP, Mr. Ure and the government. Again, he will not call Bwaka. Sieh, to break up the CPP, Mr. Ure and the government are being cheered on by other leaders of the CPP. Who are the other leaders of the CPP? That Ure, that Nyomli, that DeLong, and Mr. Bwaka, who is a major opponent. Mr. Cummings will not muster the courage to call Bwaka, to call Nyomli, to call DeLong, and others by name. He went on to say, these leaders are afraid that we will defeat them in the CPP Democratic primary. Who he's going to defeat if there will ever be a primary? Who is he going against? He is going against, or will be going against, Mr. Bwaka. But he can't call Bwaka name. Is this man ready for prime time? What is the significance of not mentioning Bwaka by name? When this persecution of him will only benefit Mr. Bwaka. Does he not see that Ure is the man fighting, fighting a proxy war for Bwaka here? He will not do that. And I will show you more example. He went on to say, these individuals are aware that they will lose to us. Who is the individual that will lose to him? That has to be what? Bwaka. And he's talking about the CPP primary. These individuals are aware that they will lose to us, now want to break their promises to the Liberian people, but are too cowardly to take responsibility for breaking up the CPP. Who are those individuals? That Bwaka, that DeLong, and that Nyomli. Again, Mr. Cummings will not muster the courage. What kind of leader does he want to be here? If you want to be in this business, he said, hence, they are joining with the government to contrive a lawsuit against the CPP. After almost 2 years, after 2 years of its continuous existence, honor the same set of rules and obligations. He continued, the conspiracy to politically prosecute opponents, aided and abetted by some members of the opposition. Again, he's using the word some members of the opposition. It's bad for our young democracy. Mr. Cummings, again, has failed to call Bwaka by name, to call DeLong by name, to call Nyomli by name. These are the other leaders of the CPP that he's talking about. He's afraid to call their name. Only Ure and the government of Liberia he sees here. And that is the low-hanging fruit. And this is somebody who is not ready for prime time. He went on to say, the Weah administration, with the help of some of our opposition friends, again, he will not call name. I repeat, Mr. Cummings said in a quote, the Weah administration, with some I mean, with the help of some members of the opposition, of our opposition friends, are conniving to come after me because they know I and the ANC represent something different, a unique level of seriousness set out to change the corrupt political system by presiding, I mean, they are presiding over. Again, he has refused. Again, he will not muster the courage to call Bwaka, to call Nyombli, and to call DeLong. These are the main people that he's against. And he will go to call Ure and the government of Liberia, because these people are the low-hanging fruit. This man does not know his opponent. He does not know his opponent. Your opponent is Bwaka. If you don't know, let me tell you. And be man enough to call him out for who he is. In order to target me and the ANC, others will gladly break up the CPP and will not lose a night's sleep over breaking their promises to the Liberian people. Who are the people that made the promises to the Liberian people? Bwaka, Ure, Nyombli, and DeLong. These are the other leaders in the CPP who told us that the CPP will hold. Again, Cummings will not call these people by name and will go after the Liberian government because the Liberian government is the low-hanging fruit. So his call to action will not sell because he failed to identify his main opponent in this speech, in this case. He failed. His main opponent in this case is obvious. It's Mr. Bwaka, aided and abetted by DeLong and Nyombli. And Ure is just the poster child who is doing the daily work because that is what he's good at. That is what he's good at. So, folks, the speech by Mr. Cummings, though it was short in length, he used a lot of good lines. He delivered it. It was not powerful. It was not moving. He did not win the Liberian people on his side. Mr. Cummings did not win the Liberian people on his side in this speech. The Liberian government, if I were Mr. Cummings, this is what I would do. That our judicial system, first of all, let me establish that mentioning the Liberian government was a miscalculation. It was wrong. The Liberian government did not sue him. The Liberian government did not take him to court. Did this in the CPP. He knows who he has been against all along. He knows that. So the case was taken to court. And what we know is that the Solicitor General of Liberia, Serena Cephas, Mr. Cummings missed another opportunity to have gone after this guy. If I were Mr. Cummings, this is another missed opportunity. He should have taken some time to go after the Solicitor General. Since this is a political case, I would have called that the Solicitor General be dismissed or be removed. Because this is what we know. The Solicitor General inserted himself on this case. The Attorney General of the Republic of Liberia is Musa Dean. According to Musa Dean, Serena Cephas, Solicitor General of Liberia, is running a parallel justice system. Ministry of Justice, MOJ, in Liberia. That is what Serena Cephas boss said. In other words, Serena Cephas has injected himself in this case, and he's running with this case, and he who is the Justice Minister of Liberia did not give his blessing to Serena Cephas. Mr. Cummings should have pointed that out. And that this Serena Cephas man has no credibility. This man is linked to money laundering in Liberia. This man has been friend of the disgraced purported Liberian citizen, the Nigerian Wambo Dike. He should have mentioned that. Mr. Cummings also should have said that this Solicitor General, who was called on audio tape on an indicted criminal in person of Ellen Cochran, and was on a tape with her talking about virgin hairs for ritualistic purposes. This lawyer is a disgrace to our country. This man should have no place near the court system or in any of our justice system. This man does not have any credibility whatsoever to be appointed in the first place. And that he will have called on President Weah, that I know that President Weah may not know anything about this case. But this man called Sema Serena Cephas is tarnishing the reputation of the government, and he should be removed from this case because he is the one who is making this case political. And that, in fact, he is a pay agent paid by Benedict to do Joseph Boaka's building. And he needed to muster the courage to call Boaka by name. Mr. Cummings should have done that, and that was a missed opportunity. He did not do that. Now, this is another thing Mr. Cummings did that I disagree with. He went after the government, reminding Liberians that this is the Liberian government that removed a sitting associate justice, talking about Cabinet Janet. But this is what Mr. Cummings failed to know. If I was in Mr. Cummings' case, I would leave that Cabinet Janet case. This is what I would have done. I would say, we all know in Liberia that our justice system is not perfect. We know there are problems in our justice system. But that what we also know that our justice system is set up. It's just that some individuals in there are not doing what they're supposed to do. They are taking money. They are selling justice to the highest bidder. That is what Mr. Cummings should have done that he did not do. But instead, he condemned the whole government. He condemned the whole judicial system. And that was unfortunate. That was a wrong strategy. Yet is the thing. Yeke Koloba, as bombastic, unorthodox as he has been, every time Yeke went to the court, Yeke won his case against the Liberian government. It is that very court. Yeke won most of his cases there. It is that same very court when Costa was taken to court during Ellen Johnson's lifetime. My understanding is that he won the case. So people have won cases at that very court. It is that very court where Jallo took his case, that citizen case, and he got a fair ruling. So the court has been able to give rulings or dispense justice fairly. So for him to not have mentioned that, to more like in that the entire justice system, all the judges there, that they are all no good because or that is why he said, that's the picture he painted. And that was a wrong calculation on Mr. Cummings' part. There are people have gone to those courts or to the courts and have gotten justice. And he said that he believed he will be vindicated. If you believe you will be vindicated, and at the same time you are condemning the entire court system, then how are you going to get this vindication? Now, he should have brought in President Weah, but in a very sort of way that I know President Weah has no understanding of what is going on here. And that there are some state actors who are in cahoots with Ure and Boaka to indict me in the court system so as to deny me or to make me ugly in the eyes of the Liberian people. That is what Mr. Cummings should have done. And I know President Weah is busy. He's busy playing games. He's busy playing basketball. He's busy with music, releasing single here and there. And so I know he is not paying attention. But he needs to understand that the government of Liberia that he has as president is being bastardized by a Sema Serena Cephas, who is a complete pay agent by Ure, and be acquiesced by Joseph Yumambwaka, and that he needs to take action. And Cummings needed to call on the judges and lawyers in Liberia that they should stand on the side of the law. That is the right thing to do, and that is why they have taken oath to do. That is why he should have done. But he condemned the whole system. He blamed the government of Liberia when the government of Liberia basically has no fish to fry in this fight between him and Bwaka. He's blaming the government of Liberia. So, Mr. Cummings' speech, I want to conclude, was well written, well delivered, but was not powerful, was not moving as they have intended. He did not connect the Liberian people. He did not win any solidarity. He did not win any sympathy. He does not deserve one here because he has gotten himself into this situation, which has become very difficult for him to handle now. If we can pull it the more leeway, it has been very difficult for him. This thing has been going on now. His side is like 10 steps, or if possible, 5 steps, if not 5 steps, ahead of him. Every time they would strike, and then he would be playing defense. Every time they would take the lead, and he would be playing defense. Is this man ready for prime time? So, folks, that would be my analysis of Mr. Cummings' speech. Mr. Cummings did not say quite succinctly by painting a picture how the charges were baseless. Mr. Cummings did not narrate his accuser's political plot from point 1 to the lawsuit. Mr. Cummings also failed to characterize Ure and Bwaka as the problem by painting their action and inactions. Mr. Cummings did not make a solid and chronological case against Ure and Bwaka as being the one who are breaking their promises that the CPP will hold. Mr. Cummings has failed to pin the political nature of the case by talking about people asking him to apologize, bringing block voting, accusing of fingering document, trying that they will expel him from the CPP, and that they too are leaving the CPP because they can't succeed, and now a lawsuit. Mr. Cummings has failed to pin that picture. Mr. Cummings has failed to pin the picture for the average Joe Blow for him to grab and understand and see this case for what he thinks it actually is. He called his accusers cowards, but yet he himself will not muster the courage to call his accusers by name. His main accuser here is Mr. Bwaka. Mr. Bwaka is only using Benedict Ure. He's hiding his hand. Instead, Mr. Cummings went for the low-hanging fruit, government of Liberia, and a tainted and damaged character like Ure. Those are the low-hanging fruit. He felt that because the government of Liberia is the boogeyman, and Ure is hated by most Liberians because of his role in Liberia, just by mentioning their names, everything will be good for him, and the Liberian people will come on his side. That was the wrong calculation. He should have done a succinct job by doing the good analysis and trying to point out and paint the picture in the minds and hearts of the Liberian people. Mr. Cummings failed to do that. And last but not the least, Mr. Cummings failed to draw the contrast between his chairmanship that arguably was successful. His chairmanship was very successful. He failed to paint that picture against the dismal, chaotic, and dysfunctional leadership that Joseph Bwaka is showing the Liberian people today. As we speak, there is no CPP. Bwaka is quiet. He is not uniting the CPP. He said he was going to institutionalize the CPP. He's howling beyond accusations of free-win document, which is actually his doing. Mr. Cummings did not draw that contrast. That under my leadership as chairman of the CPP, yeah, are the things we were able to accomplish. But under Yombly, we accomplished nothing. We should have reached a consensus. There was a day that he did not narrate that. And now Bwaka primary has fallen, and now or ALP has left. They left because of Bwaka. And we heard that Unity Party is also leaving. Mr. Cummings did not build that contrast for the Liberian people to see. So in as much as this speech was a little bit well written, it was not powerful. It did not accomplish anything. There were so many missed opportunities by Mr. Cummings in this speech. And I will ask him if he does not want to fire his political strategists, if he does not want to fire his staff, let him at least suspend them for not doing a good job. This was a disservice to him. You are in a political fight here. You should fight like a political actor, but they are fighting as though two girls or a girl is fighting, or gigantic and monstrous boyfriend. This is how he has chosen to fight. What a missed opportunity. What a waste of time with this speech that accomplished completely nothing. It did not accomplish anything whatsoever. And we have given him free press here. So, folks, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we will be looking at your comments, and also we will be taking your calls. I have said my own. I can't pretend that I was 100% right, but I know politically I was on point. I know analytically I was on point. I know I went into the meat of the speech, and so you will have your time to say your own. And please do now or forever hold your peace. We will take a short break, and we will be right back.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Dennis Jah, thank you. And I'm Ansony Sieh, the host of the Hour of Politics here today. We have been doing an analysis of Mr. Alexander Benedict Cummings' speech delivered on Sunday, the 16th of January 2022, in which he had few goals to show that the case against him that is in court today is a political witch hunt. And in my analysis, I was able to succinctly show you that Mr. Cummings did not achieve that, even though that was his goal, and that he went to the low-hanging fruit. So, folks, here I focus on Liberia. The number to call, if you look in the scrolling text below, that number is there, 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. That is the only number to call. Do not call the number that begins with 612. Please do not call that number. Again, the number to call, and let me display it on the screen for folks to call. It's in the scrolling text, but let me show it to you, because I noticed that sometimes folks don't get to realize that this is the number, 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. That is the only number to call to participate. I want you to come. I want you to disagree with me. I want you to agree with me where you think you have some agreement. And if you wish to analyze anything that you're listening to in the speech, you might have read in the speech, you can also do that. But when you call, please, you have 1 minute to do it, because we want to give more people the opportunity to participate. Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things our dear country, Liberia. All right. So before we take the calls, I don't know, I should do calls and comments as well. So let's do calls today. Let people talk. Let people talk. Let's see here. We have a caller here. Hold on there, caller. Folks, it's time to call. They hear you. I think I should do more calls today because of time. All right. Let me see.
All participants are muted and they can unmute themselves.
All right. We have Momba Kati. Let me know. Mr. Momba, go ahead. Hello. Mr. Momba?
Yeah, how you doing, Mark?
Why? Is that your name? Did I get that right?
No. Yeah, my name is Arcadius Human.
Okay. All right. It appear here as Momba. So sorry about that. So let's hear you. Quickly, you have a minute.
Yeah, thank you very much, brother. Yeah, I listened to you pretty well. Yeah, at a certain point, I would agree with you when you talk about how Mr. Cummings went after the soft target. But I want you to understand, he did a brilliant job.
Okay.
The only thing I would say is the timing was wrong. But Mr. Cummings did what he's supposed to do.
Okay.
One, he cannot include every single thing in a particular speech. Even yourself, when you're hungry, you got an appetite to eat salad, chicken, all type of things. But at the end of the day, you will settle for one and say, "Look, I'm going to eat another meal tomorrow, or I'm going to cook palm butter tomorrow." That's what he did.
All right.
We understand the problem here. Okay, the government said, for making young men of our brother, God mentioned, he said they don't have no resources to go after that case. Auditor, God mentioned, they said they don't have no resources to go after that case. When children got raped in the country, they said they don't have no resources to go after that case. But they got a lot of resources to go after a signature issue that they don't have no case against Honorable Cummings or Mr. Cummings.
Thank you.
So we all know that this is wrong and this should stop. And all good laws and librarians to fight against this and condemn it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Let me do this. Let me bring in this comment from Francis Wilson. Cummings took CPP at face values at their word. Big mistake considering the players. There was always an agenda, the details of which he was never privy to. Learn the lesson and move on. You are not swimming with sharks, Mr. Cummings. You are swimming with this is a big one here, piranhas. They will kill you, and they will kill you one small bit at a time and twice as fast. Watch your back and your crew. Francis writes. Let's go to the calls here. We have the man, Mr. Aliyu Kamara. Mr. Kamara, let you Aliyu Vamba Kamara, right? Go ahead.
First of all, let me thank you for your temperament. Like the way I can go after you and you say don't give a damn. I don't know how you do it. The last time I went out to Dennis, the first thing after the show, immediately the guy called me. I said, "What's wrong with this guy's temperament?" I didn't answer his call. I said, "Well, why was that in there?" I got the statement I made over that. I didn't even need to make that statement. There was no reason for it, you know. Sometimes I push you guys buttons and you guys have the best temperament. But let me just say that I was really going with the flow until you begin to attack personalities without any findings, without any facts. Before I make my point, let me just by working with the Liberian government does not make you corrupt.
Okay.
Not everyone who works in the government is corrupt. So by just making statements against honorable people's character without findings, I know it's freedom of expression, but sometimes they force pull in the entire credibility of the point that you are making, even though they make a lot of sense. It's the psychology 101.
Okay.
You know, when you start talking to someone, speaking to their own reasoning, and you start talking to them for their own sake, but then you start by saying discouraging words to them, everything else you say after that, they don't want to hear you.
That's
okay?
Right. Okay.
Well, anyway, look, with all the analysis that you're making, what you have to now try to analyze it, and let me just say your analysis that you know how to really deliberate PowerPoint presentation, if you will. But what you're leaving out is some of the red flags that the ANC has been These guys are the clean guys. They have no stain. They have no bad character. They have never sinned before. A Liberian citizen, this is common.
You have to be brave, Ali. You make your point. You have to be brave. I'll give you 1 minute to each person, please.
I believe simplicity has wisdom. So if these guys are so clean, Benedict goes to court. The first thing these clean guys did, they try to intimidate not just Benedict, but they try to intimidate the government and the entire justice system by indicting the judge presiding over the case. Not only that, the case is still in court. The complainant is not going all over the place and having press conferences and making threats. The defendant comes out again and made a whole lot of statements condemning not just the judicial system, but implying that the government is hunting him. Does this not give you a red flag that something is wrong? Why are they shivering? Why are they shaking in your pants? If I didn't do something wrong, Anthony,
Mr. Kamara, you got to close up that 1 minute. You went more than 1 minute.
Okay, let me just close up by saying, look, it is clear that this guy you are teaching, because that's how you feature him in your expose. This guy that you are teaching as a good guy among the bad people say, okay, you say, I'm Solicitor General, I'm the government, I'm the one attacking them, we are going after you. For the sake of the order and for the sake of cleanness, like as clean as you are, just give us camera. Let you people watch us which on you.
Thank you.
You have not made this point.
Thank you.
The people who you say which one to you, say that will show the information to the public. You say no, but then you go again, you have a conference and say the people are which one to you. Anthony, please analyze it.
Thank you, Aliu. Thank you. All right, that was Aliu there. He's wondering how we do it. We don't. Aliu is simple. We don't have a side, so nothing you can say to us that will move us. We're just doing our job. Let's hear from this caller with phone number ending in 6696. Let's hear you. Your name and where you joining us from.
Hey, this is Jacob. Dennis.
This is Ansony, Jacob. This is Ansony. Go ahead. Let's hear you quickly. You have a minute.
Yeah. What happened 1 minute, real quick. I think this was a waste of my time because everything Mr. Cummings said, we have heard it. And for me, I was thinking he was going to give us updates on the court proceeding. That's how I expected. I went for Heritage to let people to see it was a waste of time. I did not get no update on the case, which of course would have been better for us. So televise the case, but he refused. So after that was a waste of time. Everything he said, we all have heard it before.
Thank you.
So from my own point, it was a waste of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you heard the brother there. He said that was a waste of time. Let's hear from Collins Terry. That's the name I see. 3168. Last 4 numbers. Let's hear you.
Yeah, I heard you saying that Mr. Cummings should have accused JNB and Youngly Kanga Lawrence and Dallas Taylor. And I think that is unfair to Mr. Cummings because your accusation is trying to prevent Mr. Cummings to present a speech that would have attacked boycott. And I think that particular statement is a political strategy that is also a propaganda. All right. I think Mr. Cummings went directly for the government because he knows that the government is the one in charge of the case. They can make decisions, they can influence the court and all that. Even though I do support Mr. Cummings or his speech, there is something also Mr. Cummings made mention. He said he is the most formidable candidate in the race, which of course is a lie. Right now, the most formidable candidate in the race is George Leah from statistics. All right, from the previous election. So Mr. Cummings is not the most formidable candidate. That's so we are a boycott. So these are the 2 formidable candidates we're looking at. So again, Mr. Cummings blunder and lie over there while making a political.
But Mr. Collins.
Yes.
So throughout, you heard me, reading from his speech, right? he will say Mr. Ure and the government of Liberia and other opposition leaders and other opposition leaders and other opposition leaders and other opposition leaders in the CPP, our friends in the CPP, who you think he was talking about? And why would he choose not to call them by name when he's being called by name for who the thing he actually is?
Because in my mind, he knows that those people are still part of the CPP. They have not totally left as you have left. So, and there's a possibility that the CPP could fix herself, because right now we only hear it in gossip that these people might.
And so, Mr. Collins, you think those people would not know that they are the one he referring to, and even going as far as calling them cowards? And he who is not a coward can't even call them by name. And my other question to you is, who you think is Mr. Cummings' opponent here in the CPP?
Mr. Cummings' opponent is Joe Boyka. That I will tell you for sure.
So whatever Ure is doing is going to benefit who? Cummings or Boyka?
Whatever Ure is doing benefits Ure. Ure care about Ure. Ure care about presenting. He's trying to cover up.
I agree. It will benefit Ure, but before Ure can benefit, let's say if Ure will benefit equally, so too Boyka will benefit. Do you agree or disagree?
No, I don't agree with that.
Okay.
Because the reason why Boyka is not going to benefit is because the case, if the case goes against, if the case falls in favor of what he needs,
Cummings,
ANC, definitely it benefits what he needs.
Ure? Okay.
If it fall, I say if it falls in favor of ANC.
So if Cummings is vindicated, right? If Cummings is vindicated, you are saying it will benefit Cummings. So why, if Cummings is guilty, who does it benefit?
It benefits Ure. It don't benefit JMB because, like you said,
all right. So if Cummings is guilty, hold on now, Mr. Collins. When Cummings is guilty, you understand? Here are the possibilities. One possibility can be that he may not contest in the election. And when he is not in the election, most people who will rather vote for him, not all now, or some people, I can put it that way, will vote for Boyka because that's the only choice they have from the opposition, especially those who would rather have an opposition becoming president. So Mr. Boyka will benefit. For you to say Boyka will not benefit at all, I don't think that is a fair statement for you to say.
I didn't say Boyka will not benefit. I'm saying you tell who is going to stand to benefit if the case fall against Mr. Cummings.
Okay.
I said to you that Ure will stand to benefit because Ure is the one who is filing the case. Ure is trying to present himself to be correct.
All right.
That is what he's targeting. Boyka is not attacking Cummings.
But you equally so agree that Mr. Boyka will benefit.
Yeah, obviously.
All right.
If the cards play in that way you are projecting, there's a possibility that Boyka could take the lead.
Mr. Collins, do you know who Boyka is supporting? Mr. Cummings, Mr. Collins, do you know who Boyka, or Ure is supporting?
Ure said he's supporting Boyka.
So how will not benefit Boyka?
How it will not benefit Boyka? I'm trying to say that the reason why the court proceeding is projecting in the way it is projecting is because Ure is trying to clear his name to the public by saying since he accused Cummings, he was correct.
Thank you.
And it is to protect his political agenda.
Thank you.
All right. It is not needed in the benefit of JMB because the whole entire CPP is crumbling.
Thank you.
There's a possibility that it will cause an uprising. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you calling here today. Let me hear my good friend, Kesali Double. Mr. Double, let me hear you, good friend.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Sieh. I really appreciate you for your analysis of everything. Why it's true that I don't think everything 100%.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm confused with the ANC people, right? On the accusation of alteration and forgery and everything started at first, ANC were the one who were requesting to go to court.
Right.
They demanded court all along. So why are we in court now and then they are complaining? You wanted court case. They wanted us to go to court all along. Right? In fact, when it comes to the document issue, ANC on several occasions have agreed that there were alterations, they made alterations to the document. They agreed, though they gave it different names, cosmetic or minimal and what have you. They agreed there were alterations made to the document. So why can't we go to the court case and so that Cummings can be vindicated?
And so, Casali, may I ask this question? You think Mr. Cummings accomplished what the goal of his speech actually was? Did he accomplish that, in your opinion?
Nah, I doubt it seriously, because I think his goal was to actually win the minds of the people. That was the intention. But since Cummings' speech yesterday, it's not been discussed all around the place.
Yeah.
No one is discussing it. That tells you that, again, nothing, again, no relevance. If it was being discussed in the public, if it was being discussed when in Liberia by the media houses and all, then you are saying, yes, Cummings' speech yesterday against something. But up until now, I think you're the only one really actually trying to analyze it, trying to break it down.
Right.
It has been no relevance, so the speech was, it was just useless.
All right. Thank you. Any final thoughts?
And I think the blummer the ANC made initially was by admitting to the alteration. And because they did that, that's why it's something like that. That's the reason why everything is the people now, nobody agreeing with them. And they are also refusing to allow camera into the court for all to see the hearing. So that, okay, we as viewers, like viewers can be able to deduce as to who is cheating or who is not cheating.
And finally, Casali, so their case here, whether or not Cummings is vindicated, will it benefit Bwaka? Will it benefit the government of Liberia and Mr.
No doubt.
Does Mr. Bwaka stand a chance of benefiting anything at all?
I mean, if the kids go against Cummings, definitely Bwaka benefits. I mean, it's logical. You're not in a competition. If you're out of the competition, then I'm going on a white ballot. So definitely it's going to benefit him. There's no question about that.
All right.
I can't doubt that. I'm sure that will benefit him.
Thank you. I appreciate you calling, Casali.
Thank you.
All right. Let's hear from Sharon. Sharon, let's hear you. 1 minute, please.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine.
Yeah, I didn't listen to the speech itself from your analysis on the speech. There were some very important points you stressed, especially when it comes to the credibility of the Solicitor General. If Cummings had hit that target really hard, that would have placed him in a better position. And with the issue of Bwaka benefiting or not, I say that in the case of he being a benefit or beneficial of whatever that's going on, if the case goes against Cummings, I would say within the CPP, yes, because if at all the case goes against Cummings and Cummings is kicked out of the whole thing, Bwaka will probably be the next in line. But nationally, towards election, that we cannot just come out and say, yes, he will be the direct beneficiary of this whole case. Because at the end of the day, you never know. We might think Bwaka is popular, Cummings is popular, but maybe there may be other politicians or other contestants that will come out that will be even more popular than those people. So within the CPP, yes, Bwaka is definitely going to be the next in line if at all the case goes against Cummings. And then there's another thing here. Looking at this whole thing with Cummings, Bwaka remaining silent, and so nobody knows. Cummings is not just going to sit there and go to court and sit there in the camera and say, "Oh, you are guilty." They have a process. So maybe if Bwaka is not speaking, he's not speaking because it has nothing to do with the CPP as a whole.
And Sharon,
two individual political parties within the CPP.
Sharon.
Yeah.
So this whole thing about the CPP chaos, let's look at it. Let's forget about who's wrong, who's right. Who does it benefit? Does it benefit the government or does it benefit the CPP? Who benefits from
For me, it benefits To me, it benefits the CPP because number one, we all know the government and the collaboration has nothing in common like that, other than the both of them being political parties, and we all Liberians. It does not benefit the government. Government is not in favor of Joseph Boakai. You think George Weah wants Joseph Boakai to come?
All right, let me put my question. Let me put my question this way: who does the whole thing make to look ugly? The whole CPP fight since it started. I mean, does it make the CPP to look ugly? Does it make the government to look good?
It makes the CPP to look ugly, and it makes Cummings, who is being alleged, to look uglier.
What's about the government of Liberia? Don't you think this is making the government of Liberia and Georgia to look good here?
It's making the government to look good in what sense, though? Look good in what sense?
But at least they're not fighting on their side. We don't have any chaos. You know, they're not sending each other to court. So it's like the government is looking better than the government. I mean, than the CPP in terms of confusion.
For me, I won't say they're looking better because there are bigger issues they have to deal with.
All right.
CPP just has to deal with UA and Cummings being taken to court for fingering document allegedly. But George, we have to do with the everyday today activities and struggle of the people and the constant murdering of the citizens. So they got more issues to deal with. So I don't think they look any better. They don't look better at all.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Let me bring in my international caller here, Saint Josiah. Let me hear you. Where are you joining us from?
I'm joining you from Australia, Mr. Sieh. How you doing?
Thank you. We appreciate you joining us all the time. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Let me hear you.
All right. You know, I listened to your analysis and you missed a lot of points. I don't want to say you miss a lot of points.
Okay.
You see, you are looking at everything in one angle, who it benefits. That's what you're looking at, and that's the point you're pushing. You are looking at it from an angle that is going to benefit Boakai in the CPP, granted, because everything that's happening now, if Cummings gets kicked out, the competition in the CPP is done. So let's get that fact clear. That's your point. I understand your point. But let me tell you the one beautiful opportunity that Mr. Cummings made. When JMB made a statement in America and said that he will call all the political leaders together to see how they can find a solution. And Mr. Cummings was smart. He will have capitalized on that statement and rally around his colleagues and see how they could bring peace to the CPP. But Mr. Sieh, if you and your wife get confusion and you coming in to go and talk into it, and your wife is now waiting to sit in the house for her to sit on her kids, there will never be peace. Mr. Cummings has shown time with our number that he's now willing to sit down and dialogue with his colleagues. Recently, when he went to the court the first day, when he came back, what did he start doing? Shame on all the political leaders. For heaven's sake, Mr. Sieh, these are all adults. These are not kids. These are your colleagues. If you want a peace, you will beat the drum of peace. But you keep beating the drum of war, and then you come back and cry out, oh, the people beating me, oh, the people hate me. You want the bad public sentiment. The ANC folks destroy Mr. Cummings, and they will realize it when the time comes. The reason why the government is capitalizing on this, Mr. Sieh, if you're fighting 5 or 6 people, and you get one person presented to you, disabled, will you not eliminate that one and worry about the others later?
So you will do.
Mr. Cummings is just a sitting duck. The government is making use out of opportunity. Mr. Cummings should have dealt with this issue with his colleagues.
Thank you.
Mr. Cummings did not do that. That's the opportunity that he missed, and his folks are not telling him the truth. Even no one wants for Cummings to go down the path he's going. But I've said this over and over. It would have been better for Mr. Cummings, Boakai, everyone go their separate way, present your agenda, and let the Liberian people vote for who they want to vote for.
My brother, Mr. Cummings,
attacking the other people, it will give Mr. Cummings what his want. It is destroying him more.
Thank you.
Don't blame the government.
Thank you.
Do not blame the government.
Do not blame the government.
Strong opponent, and one person has presented himself by his colleagues. So the government is making use out of opportunity, my brother.
Thank you.
Mr. Cummings need to go back and beat the drum of peace.
Thank you.
He keep beating the drum of war, and it's not working for him. He needs to change that strategy. It's not working.
Thank
the
you.
ANC folks need to know this.
Thank you.
For the time, my brother.
Yeah, thank you. That was the voice of Josiah. He called from all the way Australia, and he's right talking about Mr. Cummings. The first time he went to the court, he came. He said, "Shame on those people." He made a brief statement, and I analyzed that brief statement. I disagree with you. Oh, is this now you want to say shame on these people? Do you not know these people? So this crocodile tears, it's not gonna call it. These people, they should not be in this position. They should not be in a position. They got themselves into this position. Cummings got himself into this position. I'm sure members in his party said, "Let us not do this." That one way is on record. And many other ANC people, they are on record. But those very people, they are on record, they will not be consistent. Let me take my caller here. Caller with 5919. Let me hear you, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sieh. I'm calling from Georgia.
Please, you have
a minute. Really love your analysis. I've been looking forward to listening to your analysis yesterday. Oh my God, it was just powerful. But not that it was powerful because of it not being in favor of Cummings, but just because it was the truth being, analyzed. It is so sad. I feel sorry in some ways too for this guy. Like he is not being advised properly. It's coming. He's not being told what to do. He gets up on stage, and that was just so annoying yesterday when I listened to him talking about the government. I'm like, really? That was really unnecessary.
Yeah.
The government didn't fool you. The government didn't fool you. In fact, I didn't even go into his speech too much because I was like, why would they allow him? So he talked to someone before, and he talked about his a very trained lawyers that he has. But listen to him. The people are on here right now, trying to, someone just said, how can you say the government should not be blamed, but then you blame the SG?
Thank you.
I'm like, why are you going to say that?
Thank you, Margaret.
I'm just so glad that you did this. It's very, very powerful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now you have Mr. John Marlowe. You have a minute.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. Listen, I listened to your pseudo analysis, which don't make any sense. Because if you look what you said, Mr. Cummings should have said, Mr. Cummings will have been there all day making that speech. Listen, this is not analyzing anything. You giving your personal ideas on what you think. I wouldn't give you my speech to write if that's what you think should have been on that speech. You are insufficiently astute in political understanding and lacking in political acumen and foresight. You don't explain every single thing. This man is not allowed to talk anything about the case directly. All those things you're talking about, that things the lawyers would argue, is not something that Mr. Cummings is going to talk to the public. Now, people heard what they wanted to hear. The effect is yet to be seen. But to say that it didn't affect the public, that's foolhardy. Because you don't know what the speech was given yesterday. How do you know what effect it had? What's your yardstick to measure that? I think that speech was powerful. That speech was to the point, and it hit the reason why he wanted to do it, to raise the awareness of the Liberian people of a government that takes advantage of them. The government is the one, you don't know what's happening internally. He knows. And when he says the government, he knows what he's talking about. It's not because you hear things on the street means that's what it is. What is really happening, he knows.
Thank you, Mr. Marlowe.
So just come out and generalize, it doesn't make any sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marlowe. Let's get Herring here. Herring, let hear you. 9958.
Yes, okay.
You have a minute, please.
How you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look, man. Let me first of all appreciate you. You did extremely well. I don't really follow you to the end. I was even sleeping when you were taking some juice out of Cummings' speech, and it just discouraged me just now for the God I just author. The statement condemning you. I mean, I don't know what this is what's suffering our people, the ANC people. You said something what's right. And up to now, one thing I am grabbing from Kumi, and I grab from you, and this is what I expected for Kumi to ask. Kumi, go where I saw Boakai. Boakai, you are the oldest politician and more, even down to the present government. You are the oldest politician. It is very easy that you can solve this problem. If you don't solve it, that means you don't want Kumi. So thank you. That's all I have to say, man.
Thank you, my brother. And John Marlowe coming after me. You see me laughing. My thing is, we are a media institution. We do our analysis based on what we know. And he said that I'm not in there. They don't know where we sit. We hear everything.
In the morning,
they don't know. We hear everything. It was shocking if I tell him that there are a lot of things I even hear before even Cummings. He will not believe it. But that is what he chose to do. So what he's saying there doesn't move me. For me, when somebody criticizes me, I like that more than when the person praise me. So criticism doesn't mean me.
Criticize people, not to just on the word that you don't know what you
do. I know he put me down, but that is nothing to me. You can put me down all you want. It doesn't move me. It only even strengthens me. Thank you.
You wanted a good guy. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right. Let's hear from 944. Phone number ending 944. Quickly.
Yes. How we doing? I'm Samuel.
Samuel, go ahead.
Yeah. I've followed this speech, and I believe very well that from the perspective that I listened to the speech, it was a different strategy. I believe Mr. Cummings did what he needed to do for that occasion.
Okay.
And you say that the speech is not being discussed. Let's say if that was true, it's being discussed now, and almost every talk show or platform I go to, it's like his speech is not being discussed. His speech is not being discussed.
No, I'm not the one who said that it's not being discussed. It's one of my callers, not me.
Okay, right. So the speech is being discussed, and it also helped. As for him not being specific, but calling out or all those in the other in the CPP that he believes are behind this. There is a strategy.
Okay.
There is an end game. So you don't put all your cards down. You always leave room for negotiation.
All right.
Even though you may know in the back of your head negotiation does not work.
Thank you.
My last point, you want to know who who's going to benefit. Well, I don't look at it this way. I look at it who's going to lose, and the loser is the Liberian community.
I agree with you 100%.
All this mess.
Yeah.
We lose.
Thank you, Sam.
That's my take.
Thank you, Sam. I agree with you, and I've said that many times. The Liberian people are the one losing big time here. Why these grown men fight? They are senseless fight because of greed. Let's hear from Frederick. Phone number ending in 1385. Let's hear you quickly.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. Hey, politics 101. If you have an accuser, and the accuser has a linkage to, let's say, the government, who do you go after? You go after the accuser and the government. If the company has that responsibility to go after Mr. Ure, and knowing what he's seeing in the media and what's happening, he goes after the government. Because you know what? The government is the one who he's going to run against if he wins this primary. And you said something about the speech governing or getting effect, the Liberia had no effect on the Liberian people. You don't have any evidence of that. The speech was yesterday. And we know in the world of politics and media, it's now a day after a speech, you start getting polls a result as to the positive or negative effect of a speech. Mr. Cummings, and I believe this, in the last caller said it, Mr. Cummings doesn't have to go after Mr. Boycott. Because you know what? This case is not Mr. Cummings against TCC. This case is against Mr. Cummings and URIC and cahoots with the government of Liberia.
Thank you.
And you cannot do it in one day. I guarantee you, Mr. Cummings will come back after tomorrow, and his people will follow.
Thank you.
All these guys are talking about he did the service himself. How can you say that when you have no evidence?
Thank you.
Let the case go on, and all you have to do is to indict the government as going after him as a political leader, and he will win this case, regardless of the result or what happens in court.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's hear our last caller here quickly, 2966. Last four numbers, your name and where you joining us from.
My name is Vasco Sulo, and I join you from Charlotte, North Carolina.
All right, Vasco, let's hear you.
I want to thank you for the topic, Mr. Sieh. For me, you know, I just listened to the speech yesterday, and for every speech you made as a political speech, there should be more positive things in your speech than negative things. But if you listen to what Mr. Cummings said yesterday, it's just the same repetition. These things have been saying over and over. So yesterday you had the opportunity to let the cat out of the bag. Get the this on the head of the right people, and you know how this issue will be. And then you're leaving the thing that he's supposed to say and attacking government. The government ain't look for kids on you. You're in a collaboration with a group of people that don't want you to be there. And then you expose yourself to be with them. And you have put up front to start right now. You think Bada is not talking because they say he's an elderly man, he don't want to be involved. So Bada is also fighting you. Bada using you on the front line to go against you. But you leaving the entire thing and going after the people who just there to prosecute your case. And the same people that are about to prosecute your case, they're telling you that we want the whole world to watch this thing, we don't want it to be fair. But you're coming out and saying you don't want it. And at the same time, you're accusing these people, you see the first time you went to the phone when you see people there, you said the justice system works today. You praise the people. You haven't gone into your battle, and then now you're criticizing these people. But for me, all I want to tell the ANC people, they just need to be real to Mr. Cummings. Just coming the rightful thing. Not because Cummings got money, so you'll just be there and be breaking and doing this and that.
Thank you.
Cummings came fifth in the 2017 election. Nowhere in the world. Check it out. Nowhere in the world for opposition political people will come fifth place in an election. And you go into a crucial election for the following time. You say you're going to win. It can never happen. That's the reason why they make fighting by all means for this collaboration to hold. The people don't want you there.
Thank you.
So you're going to start to strategize for 2029.
Thank you so very much. All right, folks, that will do it. We took more calls today, and that will do it. This is how we will come to the end of yet another edition of the Hour of Politics, always hosted here. A Focus on Liberia with me, Ansony Sieh. Here at Focus on Liberia, we educate, we elevate, and we promote all things Liberia. The song that closes us all the time says, "We are all Liberians." And that song will take us home. Folks, I said mine, and you say yours. I said mine with a mind that our people deserve better. My good friend, brother Dennis Jar will tell me, Sieh, leadership is a life and death situation. And I believe, Dennis, because I'm not believing it because he told me. I've seen it firsthand. There was a guy called Samuel Doe. He was a master sergeant. There was a coup and he took over. An election came. He rigged the election. Many people were angry. He did not win that election according to the facts that we know. And he wanted to perpetuate himself in power. Many were unhappy. They felt that he needed to be removed because what he did was a violation of our election laws by rigging the election. Anger was in the roof. I'm talking leadership, yeah, fellow Liberians. And so some mindlessly, who were out of ideas and who were not patient enough, they were consumed by their anger. Their decision was simple, but it was deadly. What was that decision? They brought guns to take Samuel Doe out of power. It was sometime in December, I believe 1989, when the first bullet was fired. Fast forward, nation was in flame. Fast forward, we have ECOMOG peacekeeping troops that came, and the war would not end. Then was Autopus, and then the other one, and then there was World War I, and then there was World War II. Thousands and thousands died. So you see what I'm talking about. Leadership is a life and death situation. And so, yeah, I focus on Liberia. We are asking the leaders serious questions. What are they all about? Are they all about Liberia? And that brings me to the case of the CPP. These people came together. They said they would fee a single ticket. They told us they were the alternative and that they will hold together. They made these promises to us. Here we are today. They are fighting. They are in court. They are accusing each other. Look at what we see today. Should the Liberian people give them power that is greasy, that is juicy? What will they do with that power? They don't have it now. See what they do. And you don't want us to question their statements. You don't want us to analyze their statement. You don't want us to hold them accountable. You want us to call them loose and give them a free pass to leadership. If we don't hold them accountable now, if you don't tell them what they need to hear so that they can do right by our people, they will become nothing but the same. And that will become a vicious cycle of blunders, of failures, of undevelopment and mystery and poverty for our people. This is what we don't want. This is why we do what we do for Liberia. And for those who hold us accountable, who pull us down, who call our names, we congratulate you. Do your best to hold accountable. For we will do our own to hold your political goals accountable, and we will not cut them loose because we are talking about our country here. We are not talking about their farms. We are not talking about their homes. So know it and know it now. But I tell you one thing, the leaders will fail you, and you will see who really is for this Liberia that you love. My name is Ansony Sieh, and I don't apologize for fighting for a dear country that we all love. The song says we are all Liberians. Thank you. And maybe you appreciate me one day. Bye-bye, folks.
We are Liberians.